know when I did Motown sessions back in the early days of my engineering career, we used to have, the sound of the snare was very dead. We used to tape it up with big wads of paper towels and
Right. Even put wallets on it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Guys used to tape their wallets on it. I use like gaffer's tape or black tape or any of that with like paper towel, and I fold the paper towel up under it and place it up over there just to deaden it.
Right. It all depends on the song, though. I mean, there's no real rule.
There's no rule. Some songs you want wide open.
Right.
Like even with some of my other drums, I have them wide open. Some I have a little tape on it just so the sound resonates a total sound of the overall kit.
I see.
But like I said, the snare drum is your identity. Most people can hear a song and know that it's you on the track by hearing the first 8 bars and knowing your snare sound. You know, even
Right.
knowing what your feel is or what you know your stylistic sound of play is. The sound of your drum is your identity.
Right.
So, and the snare drum thing is really my signature.
It's the thing that pops out there
Yeah.
first and catches them. Very good. And do you have any tips you can give our viewers about setting up hardware? Do you use a protector pad in there?
Yeah,
Can you tell us what
yeah.
that is about?
On this snare drum, this is the engraved Black Beauty. And what this does, when you're dealing with recording, you don't want to get this when you get to really playing. So I use this leather protector pad, and it leans against the toms, and it's no rattling on it.
Okay. Now, if somebody doesn't happen to have one of those, they shouldn't be restricted. They
No,
can grab
just-
a wad of paper towels
Yeah,
and some
grab
tape or a
a
towel.
rag and place it in between anywhere that you think is going to rattle.
We've
because
done
as I said, the studio picks up every little thing.
Yes, it does.
So, and this is the wide strain I was talking about as well.
Oh, nice. Uh-huh.
So, which gives you more snares.
And will the stand holding onto the bottom rim, will that affect the sound if it's too tight or too
No.
loose? It doesn't.
No, it has a rubber anchor around it.
It does.
And it just basically holds the snare drum in place.
That's it.
That's
okay.
it,
It
yeah.
doesn't constrict the sound. Okay, very good. So can you tell us a little about bass drum? What do you use for your bass drum?
I use the Evans EQ3. It has like a muffler system that the front head locks with the back head, and it has like a felt that goes in between, and comes with 3 different felts that you could change the side.
Okay.
One felt may be this big, one felt maybe this big, and one may be this big. And each size of it acts as a muffler.
Okay.
So if you want it not too dead, you would use the thinner one. If you want it real dead, you would use the thicker one. I use the one in between, depending on what kind of song, but mainly I want the feel of the drum. I don't want it to jump out like a rock bass drum or anything like that. I want to have a tight, full, meaty sound. So
Okay.
that's the reason I choose that one.
What kind of beater do you use on your bass drum?
This one has a little felt beater on it. Got a little felt, and they have some that's rubber. I don't use a wood beater. That's a little bit too harsh, but mostly a felt beater.
Bass drum dampening. Can you talk a little about that? I know in the old days we used to put a pillow in there, a packing blanket.
That still works today. And there's Evans, they also make a EQ pad that you can join 2 together. This side fits on the front head. You Velcro this to the other side, that fits on the back head.
I see.
And then you could put towels in it over it to make it as damp or as tight as you want. But that's the choice that I use.
I see.
Live, I sometimes still use a pillow.
Wow, it works great.
Yeah, it works great.
I remember putting packing blankets in a big concrete cinder block in there to hold it
That still
in
works
place.
too. Just like putting blankets over the front bass drum head. That works good because it holds in all the sound, gives it that deep, full sound without leaking everywhere.
I see on your bass drum here that you have a small hole cut in front of it. Can you talk a little about the differences about having a front head on, a front head with a hole cut in it, and using no front head? I've recorded all different ways. Can you
Right.
tell me from your point
Well,
of
for
view?
me, with the hole where I have it placed, it allows me to have the microphone put in and set in an angle where it's not pointing directly to pick up all my snare drum.
Right, I see.
So the mic goes in and it'll come this way to shoot away from the snare drum. Like if I had it in the middle, sometimes it pulls too much off of here. If I had it over there on that side, pointing the mic in that way would pull too much off the snare. So that seems to be the best place to have the lowest amount of snare leakage that gets into that microphone.
I see, with the hole cut about
Exactly.
the 3 o'clock position.
Right.
Okay, and how would you go about setting up your kit if you're using a front head on the bass drum? How
Well,
would
if
you
it was a
tune
bebop
that?
session where I kept the front head on with no holes cut, then you can mic it from, externally
right.
from the outside. Or if it was a rock session, I would take off the front head completely and just
Right.
be able to put the mic inside the drum to give it that really
Punchier sound.
attack
Uh-huh.
sound. Yeah. So that is more or less a personal preference.
For what reason would you have the front head on with a hole cut in it as opposed to having the front head off? Does it help with playing? Does it add tension to the
It's
the
a pers-
feel of the playing?
It's a personal preference. To me, the drum feels better with both heads on because
Right.
it controls how much air breathes through it. It tends to be a little floppier if you have no front head on because
I
it's
see.
nothing to give back to the drum.